Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a movie review. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by Oren Peli, and this film is called Area 51. So Area 51 is about three conspiracy theorists. They want to determine whether or not the overall conspiracy theory of Area 51 actually exists. This base in the Nevada desert where in the 1950s an alien life force had actually crashed and the government had hidden them away, and this is just a massive conspiracy. A lot of people believe it exists and a lot of people believe it doesn't. So these three friends want to actually find out for sure, but they don't really think they're going to find anything. They just see this as time to spend together and go on a bit of a road trip. So they travel to Nevada with the help of this woman whose father had said to have actually infiltrated this base and died in the process. So the father actually left behind the blueprints of this base and also other information that these friends are going to need in order to get there. So when the evidence mounts that maybe they're onto something, they start to second guess what they're doing and they start to become a little bit scared. But they pass the point of no return, and this is where they're going to find out whether or not this legend does exist and just how dangerous this situation could get. So whether or not they find it, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going. It's my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Area 51. I will say straight away, if you are not a fan of the subgenre of found footage, you're going to hate this film. You're going to find a lot to complain about it, so just do yourself a favour and steer clear of this film. I see time and time again people coming onto a review saying they hated this film, when is found footage going to stop, but yet they go and watch it anyway. So the warning is there. If you don't like the subgenre of found footage, then steer clear of this film. This movie is not going to reinvent it. This movie is not going to win you over, because you have seen this sort of style before, the formula before, where they're tracking something down and something bad might happen. So as I said, just steer clear of it. But if you are a fan of found footage, there is enough in this movie to actually make it interesting, to actually make you want to go and see it. But whether or not you're going to like the end product remains to be seen. As far as I'm concerned, I thought it did have ability, but it really fails right at the end. But I will say the best part of this film is the overall subject of Area 51. Does Area 51 exist? Is the government actually hiding aliens? And so it's an age-old discussion, is that some people believe it, some people don't believe it. And there's a strong level of mystery to the film that keeps the film going. And the better part of this film is no actual jump scares, no actual sort of threats. It's all that it's anticipation of actually getting to this base. Does this base exist? And these friends are going on this journey, and as they start to piece together, that the fact that it might exist, it starts to become very suspenseful. So there is a very slow and strong build-up that is not very frequent as far as found footage horror films are concerned. And I really love the way that it built it. It had showed a lot of patience, and Oren Peli showed that he could do something different from the paranormal activity films, in that the ghostly presence, the very lazy sort of jump scares. This movie doesn't have as many jump scares as you would initially think. So I really like that, and I just love the overall subject of Area 51. And then as the movie plays along, it gets more and more suspenseful. Are they going to be caught, or are they not going to be caught? So the presence and the threat is coming from a very realistic sort of situation, in that the guards or someone's going to find out what they're trying to do and they're going to be in big trouble. So it's always that anticipation of, are they going to get caught or are they not going to get caught? And so I really like that, and it's something, as I said, you don't really get in a lot of found footage horror films. But unfortunately, when it comes time for Area 51 to really deliver, when it's actually taking centre stage and you're actually anticipating a very good payoff, this is where the film falls down rapidly, and this is where the film starts to go into a generic found footage horror film. And so you feel like the build-up wasn't worth it, because it doesn't elevate itself. It doesn't feel like the build-up was there for any particular reason. It's because it lets it down in very generic storytelling when the bad things start to happen. And then by the sort of halfway through the second act, I was looking at my watch thinking, when is this going to end? Because you don't really get any insight into these characters. You don't really care about them, which is very evident in a lot of found footage horror films. But I did like the suspense. But then when it starts to go down this very generic path, it feels like a different film. And that second half of the film doesn't really complement the very strong build-up very well. And it just becomes very predictable, and it was just very disappointing in the way that it finished. I thought it was a fairly pedestrian sort of ending that the movie had, and it just falls down the trap of not really keeping its concentration. It just felt like the first half was great, the second half really lets it down to a point where you think you could just discard this film as just another found footage horror film. It did show promise, but it didn't deliver that promise, because I just didn't think it had the concentration. And when concentration breaks, you just feel that you've seen it before, and it's just it just meanders along into what is just a forgettable film. So overall, I'm not going to recommend this movie. Half of a film doesn't make a good movie, so therefore I'm going to say skip the opportunity to see this. So overall, for Area 51, going to give it 2 stars, not coming recommended. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.